Dice Tower Tonight, episode 87.
Time after time.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, we're discussing games about time. Is time a resource? Is time travel possible? Can you stack these cubes before time runs out? And can I hit the snooze button and circle back to you in 9 minutes? Also, Crystal has a game for me and the chat to play. We run through some titles we've played lately, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the 13 to my 10, it's Crystal Dax.
So are we talking... Oh, okay, we're talking Doctor Who, right?
We're talking
Obviously.
Doctor Who,
okay.
Yes.
I was assuming so. I like the reference. I mean, you and I are both big Whovians, so...
Yes.
Hello,
yes.
Eric. How
Hello,
are you?
Crystal. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to see you a week after our last
I know.
episode.
You know, we got to be careful because if we have too much fun, we're going to start having to do this every week. And I love it. That it's a lot of fun. It's great to see you so soon after our last installment. We're getting back on our every other week schedule. We are going to be talking about games that have something to do with time, which is something we decided last week, right after we finished our show last week. We're like, what do we do next week? Well, how about this? And it just sort of clicked. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. It's going to be, I think, interesting as we explore different types of games that use time in some way. We tried to keep it sort of open. But that's not what we're talking about quite yet, because we have other things to talk about, not the least of which is that the Dice Tower Kickstarter is still going on, and that is the fundraiser for the Dice Tower and the various programs that it produces over the interwebs, podcasting and video casting all over the place. And one of the primary ways that the Dice Tower raises money is through the Kickstarter. And you can find that at dicetowerkickstarter.com. There's lots of ways to throw support our way, even just spreading the word. We understand that sometimes money can be wacky, especially this year. And so we appreciate just spreading the word, or there's also some thank you gifts that you can get. You could even get Crystal to do your phone message if you wanted.
I mean, that's technically true.
I've
never recorded a voicemail for anyone before, but oh man, that would be something fun to do.
It would be fun. There's a puzzle. They just added a puzzle with the dice character image. And
I know Ambi's excited about that one.
Yes. Puzzles, and they think they even expanded. It was going to be a 500-piece puzzle. I think they just made it a 1,000-piece puzzle.
Yep, that is true.
Just a little trickier. There's, often I'm able to get some of these promos at a convention. I sort of bug Tom and say, hey, can I get a couple of these cool promos? I haven't been able to do that for the 2020 campaign because we haven't had a convention.
I didn't even think about that.
And I'm already...
I definitely do the same thing.
Yes. I'm already drooling over some of the promos. Like there's a deck of cards with the dice characters on it as well, and that's I really want that too. So it's really cool. Then you can also back the Dice Tower with no reward, which we also appreciate. And then you don't have to worry about shipping or any of that stuff, or even waiting for your reward. You can sit back and say, all right, I'm already getting what I paid for, which is pretty cool. So anyway, dicetowerkickstarter.com. And now we should probably talk about some games we've been playing lately.
I would love to do that. Eric, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I'm talking about a solo game that just arrived that I was excited about. I'm not even sure how I found out about this at first. This was a Kickstarter game that I backed pretty much sight unseen. It looked interesting, and I threw the money their way, and it was maybe about $30 or so. Pulp Invasion is the name of the game. It is a solo game, at least with the base game. It's by Todd Sanders, and the publisher is Albin Villard Studio Games Plus. I've never heard of that publisher before. But that's the base game. You can also, if you add the expansion in, ta-da, but of course, with the Kickstarter, you throw in the expansion for another $5 or whatever it was. It can be a two-player game, a sort of an adversarial thing. This is the most useless expansion box, by the way. I'm diverting. It's look how thin that is. This is tiny. Everything in here fits in that base box. I should just toss this, but
Well, you did.
I literally just tossed this.
I have the same issue. Eric. That
Yes.
like I have expansion boxes and I can put all the components in the first box, and then you have this box and you're like, what am I going to do with this box? Fun fact, my computer monitor that I'm staring at right now is held up by a role player expansion and 2 Fog of Love expansions next to one another, like boxes.
Okay.
I literally use them as a monitor stand.
This one doesn't work for a monitor stand. It's too small.
Too small.
But it's a really sturdy box. So anyway, that's the box. I really want to do something with it because
Throw it away. I'm telling you because I can never tell myself. Just recycle it, and it'll be gone.
I mean, when I moved, I got rid of all of the expansion boxes.
So now you have to restart the expansion box collection then.
I have no use for this. I don't need this.
I
But
know.
look, I mean, the art is all. The reason it's called Pulp Invasion is that it uses pulp sci-fi art for all of its stuff, and I just really like that image. Maybe I'll figure out something. But anyway, the game. It is a solo game where you are trying to find a certain number of super weapons that an evil hegemony has hidden. And those are represented by gold cubes. You have a whole bunch of cubes of varying colors, and they're gold cubes. Those are super weapons. Those gold cubes, as well as a bunch of other colored cubes, are going to go in a bag. This is, by the way, a different bag that I had lying around. The one that came with the game had a hole in it. Like, I went to shuffle the cubes in the bag, and I stuck my finger right through the bag. So that's a little bit of a negative for this game. So you have like a captain, some sort of captain that you've drawn out of 6 or 8 of them that you start with, and it has various stats. And the bottom of the box has this. There's also like some tracking cards that you can use. But you've got a level for diplomacy, science, and combat, and you start out with some values. You'll also be given a couple of these custom dice that are various types, and each face is different, and they have numbers and values and illustrations, and so you'll get a couple of these, and they're set to certain values. Some of them get rolled at the beginning. There's not a lot of rolling of the dice. It's a lot of dialing down of things. These are special powers that'll give you combat values and getting to reset things or shuffle cards or add values to things. And then they tick down and become a little less useful as you use them. So you've got those cards and you've got your values, and then you're going to draw cards, like 4 at a time, and basically encounter those things and spend those values, the diplomacy and the combat value, to deal with those things. You can evade them for a certain cost, or you can encounter them, and if you encounter them successfully, you will then get some of the benefits. They give you keys or data crystals that can be used for stuff in the future. And if they have, I didn't pick a card that had it. Here we go. So here's one of the cards you can fight, and if it has this little symbol in the bottom, and you encountered it successfully, you can then draw a cube from the bag. And these cards will also seed more cubes into the bag. So you're going to keep adding cubes into the bag, and then if you successfully encounter things, then you can pull cards or pull cubes from the bag, and if you pull a yellow cube, then you get one of the super weapons, which you can also use as a special power. You may have to give cubes over to it and sort of charge it up to understand it, but then you get some sort of special power with that super weapon. So it's all about managing your bag, getting rid of cubes in the bag, sifting out the dead weight, culling some of these cubes. Every turn you're going to pull some cubes that can then add to your diplomacy and combat values and stuff. It's a very mechanical game. It's a very, I would say fiddly is a word that works for this game, because there's a lot to keep track of. Not only are you simply figuring out what combat value you need to get past something, but you're also having to deal with the location you're in, which may add or subtract to those values. Who the hegemonic despot is that you're in their sector, and that may change the values. So there's a lot to keep track of as you go, all right, this is a 4. Oh, wait, now it's a 5. Oh, and he has special text. And while I'm okay with that in a solo experience, it does go a little slow. It says it's 30 minutes, and maybe that's once you understand it a little better. I think my game lasted at least an hour, and I was successful in getting through on basic difficulty level. But it is basically, can you draw 4 cubes out of a bag? And so if you're super lucky and in the first couple of missions pull all the yellow cubes, well, then you're done. That's not as likely, but it is possible. And I managed to finish the game only like halfway through the second sector. I do want to explore it more. There's lots more captain cards to use, lots more dice values to use, but there's a lot of looking stuff up. What does this dice face mean? What is this ability going to work? How do these cards interact? It's a little bit to churn through, but I'm still looking to explore Pulp Invasion from Todd Sanders.
It sounds like it should be a lighter game that's maybe trying a little bit too hard in a couple of ways.
I thought in reading it originally that it was a little bit more of a lighter dice rolling thing. The fact that there were dice in it and some stats to manage, and you'd be rolling more dice. It's not as much rolling, as I said. It's a lot more resource management. What do I invest in? Because if you run out of too many of these resources, if you get to 0 on 2 out of the 3 of those values, you lose. So you start running out, and it's like, okay, I really need to not spend diplomacy, or I'm in trouble. And so I like that, but it was not nearly as light. It is a heavier game than what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Well, speaking of dice rolling games, mine does have dice rolling. A lot of it, in fact.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off the blur effect so that way when I decide to show components, it will not, they won't disappear. Whoop. So Eric, I imagine you've played the game Las Vegas before.
I have, but not the edition that you're holding.
So that was the same for me. I had played Las Vegas a bunch of times. And yes, I live in Las Vegas, so it's apropos for that reason. But all the times I'd played Las Vegas had been other people's copies. I've never owned a copy of Las Vegas before.
Okay.
And part of the reason for that originally was because a lot of people that I had played it with had the German expansions and had the cool stuff to add into the base game that, like, take it up a notch.
Okay.
Well, Ravensburger published Las Vegas Royale, which basically took the cool stuff from those German expansions and put it all into one box. So when Ravensburger said, hey, are there any games you're looking to check out? I was like, I really want to see Las Vegas Royale.
Nice.
And not just because I live here. So for those of you who are not familiar with Las Vegas, it is a dice allocation game in which there are a number of casinos that you are trying to gain control of each round to get the money that was assigned to that casino at the beginning of the round. The Royale version is kind of a like deluxe version of the game. It's a little fancier. It's got this neat tray, and all of the casinos go around the tray like this. Obviously, I can't do the whole thing with only 2 hands.
Yeah,
but
the original was a line of cards, so this is kind of neat.
Yeah,
it's an arena.
It gives you a place to actually roll the dice, which is kind of neat as well. So all of the casinos go out along the sides. They are all assigned different die values. And then players take turns rolling all of their dice. Every player has a different color of dice, which I could pull. I think, how many do you start with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regular size dice and 1 mega die that is larger and also has differently colored pips. So it's really easy to identify. And that is something that came originally in one of the expansions for Las Vegas.
Okay.
But it's just part of the game now. So if on your turn, you roll all of your dice, and then you select a single pip value and assign all of the dice of that pip value to the corresponding casino. So if I rolled a whole bunch of dice and I rolled 3 threes, for instance, I could assign those 3 threes to the 3 value casino. you have to assign all of the dice of a specific value. So that's where the decisions get interesting, because if you only rolled one die of a specific value, you can place it on that casino, but it's unlikely that you'll have the most dice at the end of the round unless you get to add more later. And that is where there's a little bit of kind of like a push your luck aspect of this game, because all of the other players are going to be assigning dice to the different casinos too. And then at the end of the round, once all of the players have assigned all of their dice, whoever has the most dice in each location gets the highest value money card assigned to that casino, and then the second place player gets the next highest money card assigned to that casino. So you can end up with nothing, and ties are not friendly in this game. If two players tie, same number of dice, it goes down to the player below them. So
you get
theoretically,
nothing.
You can be in third place in a casino and walk away with the biggest money card, which honestly is a really, really fun moment. And that mega die that I mentioned is basically worth 2 regular dice. So it can be really powerful in swinging things your direction if you're behind or if somebody else has created one of those ties that you need to break. So Royale also adds a whole bunch of extra stuff into the game that you get to add to the casinos that are value 1, 2, and 3. So those 3 casinos typically have, or not typically, they always have the smallest combined total of money cards assigned to them. So these cards all add different things that you can do each round in addition to assigning dice to that particular casino. And they're all really different. Like, I'm not going to be able to describe all of them to you. Like, what's a good one that's easy to describe? Some of them, I will admit, the iconography on these, some of them I have to look up every time. Like, you know, it's quick enough that I don't mind, but I'll look at it and be like, huh, what does that mean? Like this one is easy to remember. It's called High Five. So this one goes below one of those casinos. And the first player to assign 5 total dice to that casino gets 100,000 in money instantly, which is a lot of money in this game.
Yeah.
But 5 dice is also a lot of your dice. So you to assign 5 dice to that casino can sometimes come at the detriment of the other casinos that you may be trying to win.
Yeah.
But as you can see, these are double-sided. It's different on each side, and there's so many of them.
Wow.
And each round you put out 3 different tiles. So it's going to make the game very different every time. So if you're somebody who likes Las Vegas but is looking to mix it up or make it more interesting or variable, these do a spectacular job of that. I will admit, I really love base game Las Vegas. I don't need these. They are fun. I enjoy playing with them. But I have just as much fun just playing Las Vegas, like the normal game without the extra tiles. Okay. I'm happy to have them because it is nice to like be able to kind of mix it up a little bit. So to that point, if you are somebody that already owns Las Vegas, unless you really want like that extra big die, and there's also other features that come in from some of the other expansions. There's like these blank gray dice. I don't even remember what they do. And there's black dice. Like some of that stuff is in here as well. If you already own regular Las Vegas and you're happy with it, you don't need to buy Las Vegas Royale. If you don't own Las Vegas yet and you really like dice allocation games, I think Las Vegas Royale is a good pickup for that reason. You can play the simple base game, easy to teach to just about anybody, gamers, non-gamers alike, and it's got all of the cool stuff that you can add in whenever you want. So I will admit I'm a fan, and not just because I live in Las Vegas, but this is actually is it my favorite? It's between this and Vegas Showdown. I know on the podcast, Tom, Mandy, and Suzanne talked about Las Vegas-themed games, and I was offended that they somehow did not reach out to me for this episode. No, I'm kidding, obviously.
I actually know they didn't decide on that until the day they were recording, because
really?
I'm in on the the discussions because it's all 4 of us.
Right.
And so they're like, all right, Tom, we have 3 different choices for discussions tonight, and they were recording that night. And one of them was Vegas, so there wasn't time to reach out.
Sure.
It really wasn't.
I'm not on the podcast, so I really would not expect anything, but I will admit, I saw it come up in my podcast feed, and I was like, how dare they?
that doesn't... I I would feel that way if it was like,
I don't, like, I'm not even an expert. I haven't even played, what's the one that everybody likes where you're assigning the dice as little casinos into, like, square buildings?
That's Lords of Vegas. The chat was talking about that.
Haven't played that. Like,
okay.
I would... So it's fine. It was funny that was my visceral reaction when I saw the theme.
If they're like, top 10 Central Connecticut games, I'd be like, why am I not on this?
Right. Las Vegas Royale is awesome. I do not think it's a necessary purchase if you already own regular Las Vegas. But if you really want the fun extra stuff, it's not a bad get. And if you don't have Las Vegas at all, absolutely look into it because it's a really fun game.
I have to say, I'm kind of tempted. I owned the original Las Vegas, but it sort of left. It wasn't hitting the table, and we let it go in one of the rounds of culling at one point. But that version does look really pretty.
I like it. I know that the price point is a little bit higher, and I think that's the thing that has kind of scared some people away.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's not crazy high for a board game. I want to say it's like around $50 American, most places retail, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But to me, like, you are getting essentially a base game and a couple of small expansions. So the price point makes sense to me. But again, Ravensburger sent this copy to me for free, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge that fact. So
right.
This is a game that I would have likely purchased on my own anyway. But I'm really happy that I own it now.
It's sort of in line price-wise for other games in that box size, because it's not only Ravensburger, but also says Aaliyah on it.
Yes.
And so those that's sort of the same size and series as Puerto Rico and Princes of Florence in that size box. So that makes sense.
Yep. And I had to mix it up because I also reviewed Carpe Diem, the third edition of Carpe Diem on the Board Game Blitz podcast here this past week. Yep. And, that I'm doing the Euro stuff. I'm doing the fun dice rolling stuff. Ravensburger's honestly got a lot of really neat stuff in their catalog right now.
Yes,
so between them and Aaliyah.
I saw that you got Horrified in that shipment as well, and I know I recommended that one. If you haven't played Horrified yet, you need to get that to the table.
So I played it one time on the Dice Tower cruise, actually, and really, really loved it. And so when Ravensburger said that was available, I was like, yes, please, I would like to play it more. Because I think I ended up throwing it onto my best of 2019 list for the Blitzies, just based on that singular play, because it was so good. But I'm really excited to dig into it more. I also have Castles of Tuscany that I'm excited to play soon as well.
That I want to hear how you felt, because I've heard a lot of good things. I have not even seen or held or had any interaction with it, but people say it's a really nice distillation of the Castles of Burgundy concept. So
which I've only played Burgundy once. It was one of those things where on a whim at a game group, I did it, and then I went, oh wow, I see why everybody really likes this game. So
the danger, if you played Horrified on the Dice Tower cruise from the library,
the figures, I know,
yeah,
freaking Tom, man.
Yeah.
Tom tricks out all of his games in such cool fashion, and he used those blind boxes, right? That's what you told the story because your wife wanted them?
Yes. And we have successfully gotten all of them and had to get 2 different Frankensteins, because one of the methods of the game is that you have to humanize Frankenstein. So it reveal his humanity. And so there is a version of these figurines. These are Funko. They're not pop, but they're a different, like, Universal Monsters. And there's a version of Frankie who's like this, and then there's a version where he's holding a flower. And we had to get both because when he's humanized, you have to switch him out for the love-struck Frankenstein. So what was it? I had I have an extra one of, I think, Swamp Thing, of the creature from the Black Lagoon, not Swamp Thing. The creature from the Black Lagoon. So if you are going that route and need the creature,
I
will hook you up.
I will let you know.
Okay.
Yes, but
the first one you get is going to be the creature. If you
probably accurate is really, that's how those things go. Let's play a game with the chat, Eric.
I want to play a game with the chat, and from what you said, we're going to play a game that we've played before, but in a way we haven't before.
That is incredibly accurate. So I am going to switch over to my other screen here, and then you can make me full screen if you want, or you don't have to, although it might make it easier to read if it's bigger, but then they won't be able to see your lovely face anymore.
That is true. I'm getting a nice like picture-in-picture effect
Yeah.
right now.
From me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that on my side.
That's impressive stuff. I think
I know, I have a fancy new program that helps me do things.
I might make you bigger. Hang on one second, because this is going to be just me. And now I got to switch over to just you. There we are.
All right. So we're playing Wavelength, chat. And in the past, when we've played Wavelength, I've come up with the clues and tasked you all and any guests we had on to move the needle, so to speak, or the dial. This time, chat, you're coming up with the clues for Eric and I, and we are going to have to try and see if we can get the dial into the right place based on what you all say. And going along with our theme this evening, all of the cards that I have selected with different ranges on them have to do with time.
Okay.
Fun fact, there's enough in the deck that I was able to do that.
Impressive. So these are from the boxed edition of Wavelength.
From the box. I did not create these cards. They are all from the box.
Okay.
So chat, you all are going to have to do this. So what's going to happen is I am going to spin the dial and reveal it, but both Eric and I are not going to look when the dial gets revealed. And then you all are going to make up clues. If you would like to submit a clue for consideration, what you will do after the dial has been revealed is type that clue in all capital letters into the chat. I then, at some point, will look at the chat and pick one of those clues at random very quickly so I don't give myself too much information by looking at a lot of the clues.
Right.
So, our first range, I will hold this up to the camera over here so you all can see. It is never on time on the left, always on time on the right.
Okay.
So, I'm going to spin the wheel.
I'm looking away now, and I've also covered up the streaming on the other computer so that due to a delay, I don't accidentally see anything. So
okay, cool. Oh yeah, I gotta hide the YouTube video because otherwise I'll be able to see it. Okay, I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna reveal where the dial is at. So chat, oh gosh, I shouldn't have taken my hand off of the thing. It's fine. So chat, you now know where the dial is. I'm gonna close it now. Okay, it's closed. Eric, we can look.
All right.
So chat, okay, so now I have to wait a few seconds to make sure that I don't see the stream, but I can look at the chat. I don't know how long the delay is on YouTube, so
well, when you start seeing the capital letters show up, I think
well, but I don't want to see in the video the dial that I showed.
Oh, that's true. Well, I like opened a window and sort of put it over.
Okay, well, I glanced at the chat and saw two things back to back that were the same clue, Eric. So it's the one we're going to go with.
Sounds good.
Okay? So our clue is white rabbit.
White rabbit.
Between never on time and always on time, I'm definitely leaning toward the never on time side.
Yes. And so the question I would say is it all the way over? I mean, the white rabbit is always late. Constantly. That is his thing. It's interesting because I always find myself in these games like thinking, my brain, like if the dial was like here, that still seems like a reasonable clue to come up with in your brain. But like, is there anything that is more late than the white rabbit? So. Oh boy. So I would be very happy with it being where it is, maybe 2 notches farther down. Yeah.
Okay, like that?
I like that.
You like that? All right.
I think that would be, I mean, I'm sort of thinking of what the notches are on the Wavelength dial.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if it's all the way over, 100%, but I like this 95.
Yeah. I'm going to say we're locked in.
Yep, we're locked in.
Because the chat is freaking out about how horrible this is.
Oh, no.
So I think our clue givers may have...
Oh, no!
That There were two of them back to back from different people.
Chat, what have you done?
Chat, what happened? We trusted you. Okay. So
takeout food. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Takeout food is a good clue, and I might have gone in that general direction.
Yep.
I there's some splaining to do.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It was two different people at the same time. That's what's like blowing my mind
it's
right
a conspiracy to throw us off, is what it is.
Oh, they've conspired against us.
On behalf of chat, we apologize. Well, you better.
Chat. It's okay. You know what? You wanted to start off weak so we could get strong. You're gonna impress us this time.
Yes.
So I am gonna spin the wheel.
That was a practice round. That is what would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. You all
if it was a terrible clue.
Here, I'll spin it this direction so it's less likely to do that.
I'm turning away just in case you make a mistake.
Yeah. Okay. I've spun it a whole bunch. I have no idea where it is. I am gonna reveal. Oh, I should give you guys the next.
That's probably good.
The card.
Yep.
All right. So our next card is waste of time on the left, good use of time on the right.
Ooh. And
waste of time to good use of time. All right, Eric, I'm revealing
to consider the audience
and
here
not
too.
Looking, and I left the YouTube video up on my screen. I have my eyes closed, so I'll just have to be very careful about when I open my eyes again.
Yep.
So, all right, I'm going to close the thing, and then I'm just going to sit here with my eyes closed for a little while because I'm afraid to open them for fear of cheating.
Okay.
One of these days, I should really learn how long the YouTube delay is. Or, okay, I think am I safe? Am I safe? It's not safe yet. I saw white. Oh, gosh. I had to close really quickly.
This is when we need a producer to tell us things.
I know, right? We're self-produced.
What we need is Roy. When we do like the live shows for summer and winter spectacular stuff, you got Roy running things and he's like whispering in our ear. You don't see him, but he's like, "You're on in 5, 4." It's really helpful. Anyway.
Yes.
We're volunteering Roy to help us.
Okay. So I see that there are a lot of all caps answers. Eric, you know what? Can you see the chat? I'm going to let you pick one this time.
I saw reading a book. That was the first one that I saw.
Ooh,
reading a book.
So this is interesting because I feel like this one is a very subjective type of answer. So this is if I was playing this game with my friends, I would take what I knew about that person in interpreting the answer, but I don't know who gave us this clue. So I personally would say reading a book is a good use of time generally.
I definitely would. And more so a good use of time sort of objectively than, say, watching a movie or playing a video game.
Right. Because like you have things like educational things and textbooks and other things that can definitely be beneficial in a lot of different ways.
So there's a lot of knowledge. And I mean, for me, it's work. So, yeah, it is a good use of time. I would say it needs to go farther to the right. Yep, for sure. I like that position.
Okay. I like this too. Like, what's crazy is I could see this being anywhere on this spectrum depending on the person.
It's true.
But I'm going to hope that we have some book lovers. I'm actually I'm going to squeech it one more, like a couple more down.
Was that one squeech or two?
Two squeeches.
Okay.
I don't know what that word is. All right. Let's see how we did.
Oh! Oh, no.
Oh, somebody thought reading a book is a mild waste of time. Well.
They should have a mod pick a suggestion. Or pick 2 clues. Yeah, I don't think a guy who makes audiobooks is going to think a book is a waste of time. That is literally what I was thinking, yes.
Yep. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up the video with Skype so I can see the chat.
There you go.
Not the video on YouTube. All right, so our next card is...
They're suggesting that we pick 2 clues instead of 1.
Well, but what if they're contrasting clues? Then what will we do? All right, next is limited on the left, infinite on the right.
This is an advanced Spectrum card.
It is. All right, so we're going to spin the wheel.
All right, I'm going to look away at all the stuff I haven't put away yet here in the basement.
And I'm going to reveal. And I'm going to sit here for a few seconds while the chat ponders what clues they can give us. And we'll pick 2. And if you all give us contrasting things, then that's your fault. Oh gosh, okay. I moved my hand away again. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's closed.
Okay.
So
I guess I can turn around.
Kabuki Kid says we have to parse the info between the 2 clues.
Ah, yes. I mean, that is more information for us.
Mm-hmm.
So far, you've picked the worst clues. How are we supposed to know?
You know what? No clue is a bad clue. I mean, that's not true, but I'd like to say that. Oh. Okay, answers are starting to come in.
I'm seeing a couple, yep.
Yeah, I'll wait and wait till a few more come in, because I know that the video is mildly delayed at different increments for different people. All right, Eric, what you and I are going to do is we're both going to look at the chat at the same time, and we're each going to pick an all caps answer. So yes. 3, 2, 1, look.
Okay.
Tigers.
Key lime pie.
Okay, so between limited and infinite, we have tigers and key lime pie.
Well, all right. So, we can rule out fully infinite, because there's only so much key lime pie in the world.
We have to be on this half of the thing, right? You can't say that there's infinite in either of those things.
It could also be that key lime pie is, you could say it's more of a limited taste. Not everyone likes key lime pie. Okay. They don't necessarily like the sourness of a pie.
Don't let Tom hear you say that.
I'm not saying that Tom doesn't like key lime pie, but not everyone likes key lime pie. So I would be inclined to go closer to limited. Tigers is an interesting answer, though.
Right, because some tiger species are endangered, but tigers as a broad concept, I would imagine there are still a decent number of them, but I'm honestly not sure.
I like your thinking on that some of them are endangered, though.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite that far to the left, but how many squeeches?
I think that was 3 squeeches.
That was 3 squeeches. I
want
one more squeech. One more squeech.
Just one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to reveal and see how we did. Hey,
oh, okay.
Points.
We're in the cone. We needed 2 more squeeches, but...
Yeah, we needed a couple more squeeches. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. If we had done 5 more squeeches, we would have been in the perfect. But you know what? I'm just happy that we got some points there. We got 2 points.
2 points is good. That's more than we had.
2 points is definitely good. All right, our next one. Let me look at the time. Well,
someone said gaming during COVID.
Gosh.
Yeah.
All right. On the left, we have short-lived, and on the right, we have long-lived. I don't know why it's not focusing. There it goes. Short-lived versus long-lived. I'm going to spin the wheel a whole bunch.
I'm turning away again.
Okay. And I'm going to reveal.
I really need to do some filing.
I'm keeping my hand here this time. I'm not taking it away. I like to talk with my hands, and that is a detriment when I need to find something with my eyes closed.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to close it. Here we go. And, oh yeah, I can look because I covered up the video, so we're good. All right, so short-lived and long-lived is the range we're working with this time. We will see what chat comes up with, and we'll do the same thing, Eric. You and I will each look after we've got enough answers, and we'll both pick something.
I'm hearing a lot of clicking sounds, so that's good. Oh yeah, there's a bunch.
Okay. So, do you want ready to look?
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Snowmen in summer.
Childhood.
Okay. Well, snowmen in summer
Yeah.
would be,
Yeah.
but childhood.
Childhood could give you that could earn you some squeeches. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking instantaneous. A snowman in summer, if it was just poof, snowman, would last a certain amount of time. It would not last long.
Right.
But
so
it would last. It's not instant. Yeah. It's not boom.
It's not exploding.
Right.
A snowman with a bomb exploding inside of it. That's where you're on the other.
An explosive snowman. That was not the clue.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, like a full snowman, even in summer, would last maybe 20 minutes, right?
It depends on where.
I guess where you are.
I know. Because when it gets up to 115
You're right.
here in Vegas,
I am talking to a Vegas resident. Never mind.
I think I'm okay leaving it really close to the edge, though.
Yeah, I would go one squeech farther toward long. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, yay! We got 3 points, Eric.
But it was all the way over. That's like the farthest it can be.
Yeah, that is literally, I think, the farthest it can be. Yeah, when it starts looping back around to the other side. All right, we will do one more. I have 2 more though, and I will let you all pick, or I'll let you pick, Eric.
Oh.
Do we want to do 80s to 90s or worst day of the year to best day of the year?
80s to 90s. That's sort of
that's
different.
That's what I think I would have gone with as well. So, but yeah, these were literally all the cards I could find in the deck, at least one side of them that were time related. So, all right, we're gonna.
I am once again turned away.
Okay, and I'm still spinning. And
oh, there's where my needle nose pliers are.
I'm revealing, keeping my hand on the dial, not moving it, even though my brain really wants to. I don't realize why that's happening, but it's happening. All right, and now I'm going to close it. So from 80s to 90s, and this one is interesting because there's a lot of stuff that overlaps the 80s and 90s.
Sure there is.
I've closed it. We're clear.
Well, that's where the gradient is going to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
This one could very well be more of a, USA-centric question, but maybe not.
I mean, yeah, it really depends. I do see that there's some all-cap stuff coming in. I'll give it a few more seconds, and then you and I can pick.
Okay.
I'm just like, from the top of, I'm like watching if the chat moves from the like bottom of my periphery here. Okay, and it's moved a couple more times. So I'm going to say, let's pick answers in 3, 2, 1, go. Rush.
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Well, is Rush from the 80s? Because the Nintendo Entertainment System is from the... but it was released in the 80s, but really popular in the 90s, too.
Yeah, well, it was...
I shouldn't have picked Rush. This is proof I'm not cheating, because I know very little about Rush. And I know a lot of freaking 80s and 90s music, but Rush is not in my wheelhouse.
Rush is not... At least time frame of Rush is not something that I would be... But, okay, yeah, no. So I'm going fully on the NES, which was released
that's more in our wheelhouse.
The NES was released in, like, 85. 85, 86.
Okay. I thought it was 87. Is it not?
No,
Is it earlier than that? Okay.
Yeah, and it also depends on when you're talking about Japan or the States. So like 85, 86. So that's firmly in the 80s, but it was most popular in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And then you're talking early 90s would be the Super Nintendo.
Right.
So, and the fact that they didn't say Nintendo, they said Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, very clearly. So the way my brain is wanting to decipher this is like, this is 1980, this is 2000.
That's, 99, yep.
And so, like, that's where my brain is trying to, so in theory...
I'm thinking 11 o'clock. Yeah.
11? Yeah. Like, do I need to move it any squeeches?
One squeech toward the 90s.
Okay. All right, are we good?
I'm good.
All right, let's do it. Let's see.
Oh,
Oh,
no!
but the NES came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Alas. That's okay.
It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Well, you know what, chat? I still think that was fun, and I like that you all. Rachel said we kind of suck at this. No, it was your first time giving clues virtually to us for Wavelength. I will make sure we play this again sometime so you all can redeem yourselves. How about that?
Ryan says, "Oops, I was thinking far right was 1990." So, if the scale is,
yeah, no, it's 80s, 90s. So yeah, that's where like this to me is 2000 over here on this side. But when somebody tell me when Rush was popular, because I don't actually know.
It's okay. This was a learning experience for all of us, and we were training. This was our training session, and next time will be better.
I still had fun, even though we didn't do well.
I did have fun. I had lots of fun.
So speaking of time, our topic for this evening is board games that have time as part of either their theme or mechanics or something about the game is timely.
Yes, indeed. So I came up with sort of three major categories here as I was thinking about.
I have three categories too.
So let's see how good the categories are. So
okay.
The obvious one is games that are about time travel.
Ding.
Okay. So we're talking like let's just do the categories first. So time travel.
Yep.
Then games that use time as a resource. So I take this action that costs a certain amount of time and that has benefits or detriments or some sort of game effect.
Ding, that's my number 2.
And then the third, I think we are going to sync up here because the third is a real-time game.
Yes.
Where you have literally a certain amount of time to complete actions, or you have to wait a certain amount of time to complete actions.
Yep, that is exactly what I have on my list as well.
Okay, so let's go down the list. Games that use time as a resource. What are your favorites of that category?
So I think the one that most people have played in this category is Patchwork, or Takedo would be another one. And I actually own Takedo. I don't own Patchwork currently, but my favorite of these, there are other games as well, but my favorite is Nova Luna, which you and I both squeeched over.
You can't go changing the definitions of these words on me.
I mean, if you're going to make up a word, you got to find multiple uses for it. But yes, after you and I both played this for the first time, we kind of went gaga for it. And my love of this game has not waned over the course of this year. And I have played it since then. Like, not the pandemic has not stopped me from playing Nova Luna.
Yep.
And it has a pretty cool solo mode in it as well. So
I haven't tried the solo mode, but yes, it has that mechanism that where'd my list go? The Search for Planet X, which I talked about last week. Last week has that same mechanism. If you do a more intensive search, it's going to cost you more time, which means other players will go before you. And there was a cooperative game. Have you ever played Red November?
I've heard of it, but I haven't played it.
This was a Fantasy Flight game from some time ago now. I'm showing my age. Where it was a co-op game in a sub. You were dwarves in a submarine that had lots of terrible things happening to the sub. Rooms were on fire and a kraken could attack and all sorts of stuff. And in order to take actions, you spent time to do so. But if you spent too much time collectively, eventually you'd run out of time and you'd lose the game. So it was tricky. You had to manage that resource of time.
Corlew in the chat mentioned another one that I had thought of. Thebes also does this, where you're doing archaeological digs and you have to choose how much time you want to spend digging.
Yep.
Which is interesting. And a lot of the games on BGG that are listed under the time track mechanism, that Nova Luna, Patchwork, all of these employ that time track where whoever is in last place or on the time track goes next.
Yep.
But time as a resource is not limited to just time tracks, because there are games like Legacy of Dragonhold, which is a little bit more RPG-esque, but does have time as a resource. Like on the back of the books, which, oh my gosh, my blur effect is going to ruin this, but you have different days and you have a certain amount of time, and the actions you take time, and eventually those days will run out, which is really neat and helps make the theme and the story of the game come alive, because you are actually progressing through different days, and you have to manage that resource of time well to do well in the game.
Yeah, the Escape Tales series kind of uses this. You're given a certain amount of tokens, and you have to spend a token every time you want to search a quadrant of the board. And it's a little more abstracted, but basically, if you think of this stack of tokens as the time you have before bad stuff happens, that's what you are spending.
When my friends and I played the Awakening, we struggled hard with where to go with some of those tokens, because in some of the situations you don't have very many, and there are a lot of places to explore, and having to decide was really difficult. I actually have low memory here that I haven't played. I'm probably going to play it solo, but I'm really curious to try that one, because I think I've heard people like that one as well, or better. I don't remember.
I think they've enjoyed it. I have not had a chance to play it myself either. All right, so real-time games where you're dealing with a timer, or there's lots of games that you set a 1-hour timer or a 30-minute timer, and when the timer runs out, the game is done. There's also ones that you have actual timers that, in order to take an action, you have to flip it over, and when the timer's done, then you can take that action. So I'm thinking the cooperative game Kitchen Rush uses this mechanism. There was a couple of trading games. Time and Space was the most recent of them. Also Space Dealer. No, was that right? Yeah, Space Dealer. Where you had ships that you're flying around, and in order to fly the ship, you flipped over the token, and it's now flying. And when the timer runs out, the ship arrives at its destination. Escape, The Curse of the Temple. You have 10 minutes to get out, and there's elements where a gong goes off, and you all have like 30 seconds to get to the first room, and you're freaking out. You have more experience with VCR games than I do, Crystal.
That is accurate.
Yeah, I
know.
Those
are definitely real-time games. Atmosphere, or some Nightmare is, as it was called in the United States, and the Star Trek VCR game Star Trek The Next Generation Klingon Challenge VCR game. I don't know if I have all the words in the correct order.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yes, I own both of those, and they are both very, very fun. But yeah, like, what's really neat about Atmosphere / Nightmare is the timer that is counting down on the video affects the gameplay in surprising ways, because there are cards in a deck that have specific times listed on them, and they give different players things to do when the time hits that certain point. So when it says there's 53 minutes and 26 seconds left, do this thing, and you could theoretically gain a reward. And I don't want to spoil what all of those things are, but this is how this game actually creates real jump scares, which I am not a fan of jump scares. I don't like them in horror movies, but in the context of this game, it is brilliant, because it creates an ambiance in a horror game unlike any other, and it's wonderful. Now, obviously, if you've played it enough times, you know what's coming, but I will say, having played it multiple times, as long as you have at least one new person in the group, you're golden. It's still a delight to play and watch them get the pants scared off of
Nice.
them.
A couple games showing up in the chat. Fuse is another cooperative dice rolling puzzle game that you're trying to solve before the 10-minute timer runs out. Magic Maze is another one where You're in the pressure of getting stuff done before the
That's
time
just
runs out.
me banging the do something pawn on the table repeatedly. Like, so angry. Captain Sonar is another really fun real-time game.
Yes.
Galaxy Trucker is another classic real-time game.
Yes. Which came up in your most recent... no, not Galaxy Trucker. Space Alert is the one that I saw in the chat that came up in your most recent Board Game Blitz episode.
Yeah, that's Ambi's favorite game of all time. I've still never played it. It's hard to learn.
It's, yeah. Jeff Engelstein actually taught me that one at an Origins convention many years ago.
Nice.
But I was excited to give that a whirl. Okay, moving on to the time travel games. A game about time travel.
I forgot. I had this in my lap for real time.
Yes! Rail Pass.
I had it sitting in my lap and forgot to mention it.
Which is also timed. You have to get...
Toot toot!
Yes. You have to get... You set a timer on your phone or whatever, and you only have that amount of time to get as many cubes as you can where they need to go.
Yep.
So time travel has been a sticky problem in board games because, if you think about your favorite time travel stories, movies, and books, there's, like, what do you think of when you think what a time travel story is about?
I mean, going back to the past and screwing things up and then fixing them.
Yeah.
Or going to the future to see what is going to come.
Right. It's sort of the difference between the time that you are from and then the past, and even changing things to benefit a later time. And sort of manipulating the time stream in order to achieve a certain end. And that has always been sort of tricky to do in board games, although some more recent entries have tried to do that. Like, one of the examples I pulled is Unlock the Timeless Adventures has one called Lost in the Time Warp. It's the third most advanced adventure in this set, but it is a time travel. You're actually given a tableau, which through the course of the game you will change and affect and manipulate to achieve ends, to solve puzzles, and that's actually one of the best uses of time travel that I've seen in a lot of these games. Because this is a narrative story, it sort of feels more like a book or a movie sort of adventure and can embrace those tropes, I guess.
Yeah, I actually, when I was doing research for today's episode, I was reminded of a Kickstarter game that I had considered backing a few years ago and didn't end up backing. And it never came to fruition. So I'll say that up front, so I don't want to get anybody excited. So I'm glad I didn't back it. But there was a company that was trying to put out a Terminator board game where you could travel between the 2 points in time to affect things. And it sounded really awesome, and I was really close to backing it. So I'm bummed that it never happened, but also relieved that I wasn't one of the people who ended up with a pledge that didn't get fulfilled.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're talking about time travel games, even though I got bummed by the ending, we have to mention Time Stories, because truly the Time Stories system does some really neat things regarding time travel.
Yep. And it also uses the time as a resource mechanism.
Yes.
Because each time you do something, you're going to spend time. And then when you run out, you have to reset entirely and basically start the scenario over with some upgrades. And certainly the knowledge that you have gained going through that first run, which is very cool. Because now you know what to avoid, what to spend time on, what not to spend time on, where to go, what to focus on. So the knowledge is increasing, but you have to start from square one again.
Yep. One of my favorite time travel themed games is actually Time Chase, which is a trick-taking game where, yeah, there it is. I don't own it yet. I really need to buy it, but I played it for the first time this year at Dice Tower West, so I've had no opportunities to play it in person, because I can't play that solo or with like one person in masks, like I need a group.
Yes.
But oh gosh, Time Chase is really neat because it's a trick-taking game where all the tricks that have happened get laid out on the table, and you can spend a resource to go back in time and change the outcome of the previous tricks. And
Yes.
that is just so cool, and it works so well.
Yes, it's a really cool system. And because you have to spend this resource, you really can only do that a couple of times. It gets increasingly more expensive to go back far enough to change certain things. So there is that tension that eventually certain tricks become safe because no one has the resources to get back that far anymore. So eventually it moves its way toward a conclusion and someone's going to win the game. But it's sort of a malleability to who is leading because you're trying to win, I think, 3 tricks. And whoever wins 3 tricks and still has them as winning at the end of a round wins the game. But people can go back in time and go after the leader. It's very cool. Here's one that's sort of a classic, at least a Star Trek version. Look, it's the Guardian of Forever. Huh, I've seen that recently. This is Chrononauts, which I also have the earlier version of, except Star Trek, where you have a whole timeline and you're trying to affect the history, and you'll do one thing and that cascades an event through various events, cards that flip over, and you're trying to get history to look like an alternate version of itself so that you can go home, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. Something that interested me when I was looking stuff up for this episode, Eric, was that while the time track and real time are listed as mechanisms on Board Game Geek, time travel is not listed as a mechanism. It is a theme only.
Yeah.
But as I look through these games, I would assume there are definitely games that have time travel just as a theme. So like a Back to the Future themed game may not involve a mechanism of time travel. But a lot of these games that we've been talking about, yeah, right, there you go.
This does have time travel, but yes.
So yeah, like it feels like there should theoretically be a mechanism for time travel as well. I know I've never played it, but Anachrony is another game where you can travel in time to affect things.
I think the reason it is separated that way is because the act of traveling through time can be completed, can be realized in lots of different ways. Maybe you use worker placement to send someone back in time. Maybe you use dice rolling to see how far back in time you go. Maybe you're spending resources to go back in time.
So it isn't the sole mechanism, it's just the thing you're doing via other mechanisms.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably why it is that way, because I guess looking at Chrononauts and Chrono Trek use card play to travel in time. Time Chase, you're spending resources to go back in time. Your gems, your time crystals. Back to the Future, you're rolling dice and using those dice actions to change where you are. You're also passing dice through time. And then Unlock, again, is card play and puzzle solving in order to complete tasks in the timeline.
It's just interesting to me because it feels like more than just a theme in these games. Like, if you said, the theme of something is farming, you aren't doing anything related to... Okay, I guess technically we're not actually traveling through time either. Never mind. You know what? My argument has fallen apart. Here's a fun fact, though. This surprised me. Eric, how many games do you think are listed on Board Game Geek with the real-time mechanism?
Oh, boy.
Like just a wild shot in the dark type of guess.
2,000.
264 is all.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that is because there are a lot of games that haven't been categorized or if there's another reason, but I was shocked. Games listed with the time travel theme, I also expected a lot. There were only 360. And then games with a time track, that's a larger number. That's 521. But again, this may be due to games that are not categorized. So, but I still thought it was interesting nonetheless.
Ambi has popped into chat. Hi, Ambi, who says, I time travel all the time, just always forward and at the same rate.
One of Ambi's favorite games of all time, we have not mentioned, Tragedy Looper, also involves time travel.
It does. It's similar reset mechanism to Time Stories, where you're moving forward and completing actions, and then you will do something to basically fail the scenario. And you have to go back and fix it and discuss why you failed.
Well,
Because
what's
that's
interesting
part of the
about
problem.
Tragedy Looper compared to Time Stories is fully cooperative, whereas Tragedy Looper has one person actively trying to prevent the rest of the team from doing the things they want to do.
It is. Tragedy Looper is a tricky game, and it's best. The problem is you have to get people to understand the game. I've played the initial scenario of Tragedy Looper too many times, but when I actually could play against someone who knew the game, and I knew the game, and we could play one of the more advanced scenarios, then it became that's when it really shines, because you have to know what the possibilities for failure and success are, who the suspects could be, and how they interact, and playing against someone who knows what they're doing is really fascinating in that game. But the base scenario, yeah, I think I've gone through that a little too many times. But you have to do it to get there.
That's me with the first 10 levels of the crew, because every time I've played the crew with a new group, it's been people who haven't played before, and so we inevitably play through the first 10. And that's it, usually. Like, that's a good play session. And so I've played through the first 10 so many times now. I'm hoping to get to play more of the more advanced levels.
Yes. Although because of the way that sometimes level 4 in the crew can be a breeze, and sometimes based on the way that the cards come out, that's a very difficult thing to do. So
very true. Well, we're already past our normal stop time, but we can definitely hang out for a few more minutes. If anyone in the chat has any questions for Eric or myself, I will remind all of you again, as Eric said at the top of the show, that the Dice Tower Kickstarter is going on right now. So if you have not checked it out yet, please go to dicetowerkickstarter.com and take a look. There are a lot of really cool promos, and you can just support the Dice Tower with no reward, which is obviously the best way to support the channel. Tom, makes it a point to not solicit things like this all year long. It is just this one Kickstarter every year, and that is the majority of where the funding for the Dice Tower comes from. And so for those of us who do work for the Dice Tower, we really appreciate all of the support that you all give to the campaign.
Yes, thank you. So we already chatted about the finale of Star Trek Discovery. Are you a Disney Plus viewer, Crystal?
So I have Disney Plus, but I am so behind right now. I have not watched any of the most recent season of Mandalorian.
Okay.
Although, wait, are you going to ask me about something that's coming out in February, Eric?
Oh, well, I mean, I could. That isn't where I was going. Excited. That isn't where I was going. So you're referencing the fact that all 5 seasons of the original Muppet Show are coming to Disney Plus, and I'm delighted. I think I have all 5 seasons. No, wait, maybe I don't. So they were releasing the seasons of the Muppet Show in DVD sets, and I don't know if they ever completed the set. I think they did the first 3 or 4 seasons. I'm not sure 5 ever came out. So all 5 seasons of The Muppet Show available, which is fantastic, and I'm excited. But I was going to ask about WandaVision, and if that is something that...
I haven't watched that yet either, but okay. I'm interested. I've heard nothing but good things.
It's a little weird, but I think I knew that going in. And a little slow, I think, because it's based on old sitcoms, and they are mirroring this old sitcom concept, which means it's got slow plots and goofy special effects and a laugh track, and it feels like an episode of I Love Lucy or Bewitched. But because of that, it's a little slow.
I mean, I grew up, admittedly, yes, I know that I'm dating myself here for how young I am, but I grew up watching I Love Lucy and Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke Show and all of that stuff on Nick at Night on Nickelodeon, which, yes, I know, whatever, but, like, it's cool that I got to watch all those classic shows on Nickelodeon, y'all. So don't hate on me. Also, I just love to be like, I'm sorry I'm young, but I'm 36. But I just know that that's where the chat would have gone with that, so...
What were your favorite moments of 2020?
Ooh.
We're looking for the positive here. I mean, obviously, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Dice Tower West, we did manage to do one in-person convention before things totally shut down, and that was a wonderful experience. I think it was a great time. We had a wonderful live show. I got to play many games with you. My brother came out. My brother, who lives in LA, flew in with his friends. And they played tons of games. I got to play games with them and get to see. I never get to see my brother. It was great to get to share a convention with him in that circumstance. So that was definitely a highlight. Of course, I moved. And successfully moved into the new house, which is good as well. So that was a highlight. Personally and professionally, to get a new workspace.
Well, and before Dice Tower West, we had the Dice Tower Cruise in 2020 as well.
Wow, that was then.
Honestly, that feels like so long ago.
It really does.
But like we had what Tom still refers to as the best game show he's ever put on the Dice Tower Cruise.
Was that the one where we were on ice skates, or was that a different one?
Yeah, well, no. We weren't on ice skates, but we were in the ice rink.
Okay.
So we had the tables, and this is the one where the Murph brothers literally took a lap around the ice rink, like because of an answer. Like it was just a really funny game show.
It is. Yes.
For me, I had a similar moment to you in that I bought my very first house all by myself. And while it doesn't sound like a highlight for me, getting divorced has ended up being a good thing for me personally. And yes. Obviously it didn't feel like it, when it was first presented to me. But honestly, I'm getting to a really good place personally as a result of it. And so I'm very optimistic about the future. And I think the biggest thing for me in 2020, and this is something that my brain struggles with, but I obviously, if I could choose, I would say I wish the pandemic never happened, because we've lost countless lives unnecessarily, particularly here in the United States.
Yeah.
But the fact that it exists is, we can't make it go away. And it has helped me become closer to a lot of my friends, particularly within the board game community, in ways that I don't think would have happened had the pandemic not existed.
Yeah.
I've made new friends, and I've forged stronger bonds with friends that I kind of only knew as acquaintances before. Like I think I'll call out like Monique from Game Freak Geek Girl. Some of you may know or follow on Twitch. She was a contributor on Girls Game Shelf. She and I have become so incredibly close, and I don't know if that would have happened otherwise. So I'm just really grateful for the friendships that I've made as a result of everything that happened in 2020.
Yeah. On a happier note, if I ever come on the cruise, can I play games with Crystal and Eric?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
That's the whole point, is to play games. And yeah, Eric and I, what's interesting is anyone who is a part of the Dice Tower, we obviously all are friends with each other and enjoy spending time with each other and playing games with each other, but we recognize that we shouldn't all sit at a table and play games by ourselves, because we want to be able to meet people and play games with other people.
It's hard not to sometimes, though.
It's really hard, because like it's not that we don't want to play with new people, it's that we just don't ever get to spend time with our friends. But if you happened to request that Eric and I sit down with you at a table, then we get the best of both worlds, and that's honestly just kind of amazing.
And then when Tom goes by, he's like, "What are you doing playing games with each other?" And we're like, "They wanted to play games with the two of us. We couldn't say no. We had to." And
Tom obviously isn't super crazy strict about that, but we all individually try to be thoughtful about such things.
Yes, and that is one of the emphases of the Dice Tower events, the Dice Tower cons and the cruise, is that it is an opportunity to get to play games with the people that you get to watch in the YouTube shows and hear on the podcasts and stuff, and that is really fun. And it's fun for us too to get to meet people that we've heard or seen in the digital space, or interacted with, getting emails or if any of you show up that have been here in the chat, that is fantastic. So to come up and say, hey, I watched Dice Tower tonight, and I'm so and so from the chat, will be like, oh my goodness, remember that game of Wavelength when we couldn't get any of the clues right?
And I for the record, I get it. It is nerve-wracking to go up to a person you've never met and introduce yourself and say something. And I've gotten comments so often like, oh, I saw you at Gen Con, but I was too nervous and I didn't want. Please do everything you can to break through that legitimate nervousness and come say hello to us, because I promise you, we will be just as excited to say hi to you as you are to say hi to us. And I mean that sincerely.
I think last question, when COVID restrictions lift, when it is safe to get together again, what is the first thing that you're going to do?
Hug the heck out of everybody I know. That, honestly, I don't just miss hugging people, but I especially, I'm a hugger. Anyone who has met me at a convention and is comfortable with such things has likely gotten a hug from me. I love to hug, and I haven't gotten to hug anybody in a very long time, and I need a hug.
Yes. Our last hug was at the airport when you dropped me off at the airport in Vegas, and I'm missing it. I want a family game day. I want to get people in my house and get to hang out and share food together and get to be close together and play stuff and have a full house and not be all spread out. And I'm really looking forward to that. And conventions. I miss everybody. Anyway, on that note, we should probably wrap things up.
We should. Even though we met just a week ago, it's nice to get together with you again, even if it was a little bit of a long episode. Everybody in the chat, y'all, thank you so much for being here with us 2 weeks in a row. If you could do me one tiny favor before you click away from the video, and that is to click the thumbs up button below the video. If you see down there, 3 people have clicked the thumbs down. So
oh no!
I'm going to assume that they were saying that our game of Wavelength was less than stellar.
Yes,
That's
it was.
Really
they
the
were
only
ranking
reason.
Our performance.
Yes,
they
didn't actually dislike the video.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it was.
But we do appreciate the algorithm boost for you all clicking that thumbs up button. And honestly, we just love y'all, whether you click it or not. We will be back. We're on our regular schedule again. So we will not be back next week. We will be back in 2 weeks. It will be February at that point, which whoa. Your head shake was exactly how I'm feeling as I looked at my calendar. So February 3rd, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern will be our next episode. And we are really looking forward to it already, and I hope you are too. Eric, any parting words before we sign off?
Let's see. Farfignugan.
You know what? That's a really good one. So until next time, I'm Crystal Dax.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thanks. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Cannaday, and Rob Searing. Cooperative tailoring of a piece of sleeveless formal wear for a statue of the star of the latest Star Trek movies provided by The Crew, a vest for granite pine. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek, on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at crystal@dicetower.com or eric@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
That is the most impressive one that I've ever heard, I think.
That's a long journey, but it's worth getting there, I think.
It was definitely worth it.
Good
Bye,
night, everybody.
everyone.